Did you know why Nanahoshi wears a mask in Mushoku Tensei? Whenever she goes out publicly, she tends to wear her mask, unless it's with people she's comfortable around or a place she is familiar with. So what purpose does it serve? Because of her mission to get back home, it'd make sense for her not to wear a mask, just in case there were other Japanese people that would recognize her ethnicity. But the odds of that were extremely slim, and she instead chose to wear a mask, likely because of one of three things. The first reason could be because she's Japanese and doesn't look like any ethnicity or race native to the world, but given how nobody reacted differently to seeing Nanahoshi's face, that's probably not it, and she could just pass as a normal human. It could also have something to do with the fact that she doesn't want to get too attached to anything in the world, and she wanted it to serve as a barrier between her and the new world she was in, so she could keep getting home her only focus. But the most likely reason is because she doesn't want anyone to know she doesn't age.
Leah sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. Season 2 just got delayed an entire year, but fans should be happy about it. They claim to have delayed the season to improve quality, and with what they're adapting, it seems necessary. Unfortunately, we know next to nothing regarding the next season, and I've only gotten a few key visuals of the student council in their summer uniforms. Thanks to this, we know season 2 will cover both the summer vacation and the school festival arc, and that has more than enough content for 12 episodes. These two arcs are arguably some of the best in the series, so they can't screw this up. Both arcs include huge lore drops and reveals that are relevant for the rest of the story, so they have to be extremely careful with what they cut. Luckily, it hasn't been confirmed whether the season will have 12 episodes like season 1 or more, but more information is going to be revealed at an event on March 29th, but we aren't going to be left with nothing for another year as they're launching a 2026 project to make up for the delay. We have no information on what it is so far, but at least there's something to look forward to. Anyways, quality should be a priority, and in the meantime, the novels are always an option.
Why did Meliodas never use assault mode before his fight with Escanor and the 7 deadly sins? When he first recruited Escanor to the sins, he used assault mode to easily defeat him in his The One form, but Meliodas never used it again until he had a rematch with Escanor, even though it would have been useful several times before that. One of those times was when he fought against the 10 Commandments at the Great Fight Festival. Meliodas was getting destroyed for most of the battle until he used his revenge counter move, but that was stopped by Estarossa, and the battle ended in Meliodas losing his life. However, Meliodas could have entered his assault mode form when the situation was dire after Estarossa stopped his revenge counter, and he could have easily taken down all of the commandments in that form. As Melascula said that back when Meliodas led the commandments were scared of him whenever he entered that form due to how powerful he was, so it's safe to say he would have won the battle if he decided to enter that form, but he didn't. One of the reasons Meliodas didn't enter his assault mode earlier than this was because Merlin had stolen and sealed his powers away after what happened in Danafor. But during his fight with the commandments, his power was restored, so the main reason he decided not to enter his assault mode was because entering it meant that he would risk losing his emotions, and no one there would have been able to stop him. What are Escanor's true powers in the 7 deadly sins? Known as the strongest human and the mightiest member of the sins, his magic sunshine makes him grow stronger as the sun rises. At dawn, his strength and body begin to expand until he radiates heat so intense it melts armor and evaporates lakes. Enemies like Galand and Melascula were effortlessly destroyed when his power awakened, and even Meliodas admitted that Escanor at his peak far surpassed him. By noon, he reaches his ultimate state called the One, where for 1 minute he becomes the embodiment of power itself. In this form, he defeated Meliodas in assault mode and even destroyed Zeldris' ominous nebula with his bare hand. His axe Rita, too heavy for others to lift, swings like a feather in his grip, but that's not even him at his strongest. He has another form called the One, Ultimate. After noon, if he uses his own life force as magic power, Escanor can keep the One active, but also boost it to be even stronger than before. However, this is only a last resort, and if he uses it, he will die. At the end of the day, when the sun sets, Escanor's power fades, and he becomes weaker than anyone else with a power level of 15. Did you know that an Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? Ayano actually hides herself behind a mask? In the manga, when Ayano is talking to Kuze, Ayano says that as Yuki's servant, she has an obligation to figure out the true intentions of people who oppose her, and that even includes Kuze. She even went as far as to say that clearing the path to student council president for Yuki was also part of her obligation, playing into the role of a villain. However, when Ayano expressed her concerns of Kuze lying about the fact that he would never do anything to make Yuki sad, Kuze saw Ayano's true intentions and feelings. In that moment, Kuze recalled that even though Ayano may seem indifferent, she actually has much more kindness and love in her heart over anyone else he knows. And because of that, Ayano was willing to play the role of the villain to figure out if Kuze was intentionally betraying Yuki to make her sad, as Ayano cared about Yuki that deeply, and it wasn't just her role as a servant that made her confront Kuze. Did you know that in ReZero, someone in Reinhardt's family was thought to have kidnapped a member of the royal family? In the light novels, during Subaru's conversation with Julius, shortly after Reinhardt's dad, Heinkel, arrived in Pristella, Julius revealed some secret information about Heinkel. Some of these secrets revealed details about Reinhardt's past, like how he was originally super close with his father and completely obedient to him. Other secrets explained why Heinkel was in a position of power among the knights. Even though he was probably one of the worst knights in the country, this was mainly because the kingdom feared Reinhardt's power. So they showed his family favor to prevent Reinhardt from turning against them. However, one secret Julius revealed was extremely shocking. Heinkel was a suspect in the investigation of the abduction of the royal princess over 14 years ago, an event that, if true, would have indirectly caused the death of Reinhardt's grandmother.
Why did Sarah initially hate Rudius in Mushoku Tensei? When the two of them first met, Sarah made it clear that she didn't like Rudius, and although it appeared to be from his initial rudeness towards Suzanne, it was actually much deeper than that. And to find that out, we have to look at Sarah's childhood, which I think is one of the saddest backstories in Mushoku Tensei up to this point. She grew up in the Milbots region of Asura, which was ruled by the Nodos Grey Rats, and she would grow up helping her parents. However, when she was around 10 years old, a horde of monsters would attack, and it would end up resulting in the deaths of both of her parents. The situation itself was something that should have never happened, as the lord of the region should have sent soldiers out there to help them, but the Nodos Grey Rats never did. And when Sarah learned of this, it sparked a hatred towards the nobility, and she blamed them for the loss of her parents. This hatred would only get worse when she was a member of Counter Arrow, as children of nobility would sometimes join them on their missions, but if the situation ever became genuinely dangerous, they would abandon the party. And when Rudius and Sarah first met, Rudius's expensive robe and staff stood out to her, which made her assume he was a runaway noble trying to play pretend as an adventurer, and it fed into her hatred of nobility.
Did you know that an Alya sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? A store clerk tried to be a wingman for Alya. In the manga, when Kuze was helping Alya shop for clothes, a store clerk was also helping Alya pick out clothes to try on. The store clerk, seeing Kuze helping Alya shop for clothes, assumed that he was her boyfriend, but Kuze told her that wasn't the case. However, after Alya came out of the dressing room to show Kuze the first outfit she put on, and seeing how Kuze praised how she looked in the outfit, and how both of them became flustered when he gave her his compliments, the store clerk knew that there was something special between the two of them. This prompted the store clerk to go up to Alya and recommend an outfit that the store clerk was sure would get her compliments from Kuze. Alya took the clerk's recommendation, and when she went to show Kuze the outfit, the store clerk praised how she looked. This made Alya ask Kuze if he thought the same, and Kuze's response to her was that she looked beautiful, making all the store clerk's efforts worth it.
Why don't vampires in Seraph of the End burn in the sun? In most media that have vampires, they always burn when exposed to the sun, but the vampires in Seraph of the End are an exception to that, but only kind of. The truth is, the vampires in Seraph of the End do burn in the sun. In fact, they even have a severe form of punishment where if a vampire commits a serious enough crime, they are sentenced to a prolonged exposure in the sun, which can sometimes last up to days or weeks. But as we've seen plenty of times, vampires do go out in the sunlight and are completely fine. Of course, they could wear cloaks or hoods to shade themselves from the sun, but that can only take them so far. And besides, we know that modern day vampires don't wear anything to hide from the sun and they still are fine. But there's a reason for this. As you may know, vampires in the Seraph of the End universe have been around for millennia, and I know it may sound crazy, but the first vampire is actually millions of years old. Because of this, their race has had plenty of time to create far more advanced technology than humans ever could, as we've seen with their communications technology and their weapons. And so, with the thousands of years that they've had, they've managed to create armbands that protect them from UV light and the sun.
How was Meliodas the cause of Merlin's betrayal in the 7 deadly sins? Despite being a friend to Meliodas for 3,000 years and a loyal member of the sins, she was manipulating them the entire time, using them to achieve her goal of bringing back chaos. And it was all Meliodas' fault. When Merlin was a kid, she was always hungry for the love of a parent, and the attention from them. Unfortunately, Merlin never got any of this from her father, with the most he ever gave her being study material. Merlin was tired of that life, so she decided to flee the city she was living in, but the guards chased her. Merlin was eventually caught, but then she got saved by someone. That person was Meliodas. That was the first time Merlin had ever had any type of affection or attention from someone, and she immediately fell in love with Meliodas. Merlin did everything she could to make Meliodas fall in love with her, going as far to alter her looks to look more like an adult woman so she could appeal to Meliodas. However, Meliodas never showed any feelings of love back, and Merlin was left to watch him fall in love with Elizabeth. This left a void in her heart. She didn't know how to handle her emotions, so when she learned about chaos, she thought the void could be filled by bringing it back.